The Taconic and Green Regional School District Board held its annual meeting at the Dorset School on Tuesday, February 25th, presenting a budget of $33.4 million to area voters who will be voting by Australian ballot on Tuesday, March 3rd, Vermont's town meeting day. School officials broke down the proposed budget to taxpayers with an emphasis on the sharp increases in health care costs following the loss of another plan they had recently developed locally with the teachers' union.
Premiums went up by roughly 13%, so that was already driving insurance costs, health insurance costs up. But with the statewide agreement, essentially it is going to have different impact on different districts, but I think it's fair to say everybody's going up. Basically all the employees, including beyond the teachers under the contract, all of our other employees also have a greater choice of the healthcare programs that they take. So in the past, we may have had certain employees where we just provided a single person healthcare plan. Now we're going to need to offer them a family plan as well.
And it would be good for you to understand what our potential risk is under the healthcare change. So we did, but included in this budget was what we absolutely knew, which was $134,000 more in costs that we would incur. What we do not know is what choices will be made now that all of the healthcare options are open to all of the supports, anybody who works in our district, all the support staff. So we did some calculation on what a potential risk would be. I don't know if risk is the right word, but what potential costs could be. And that cost could be around $500,000 of an increase for next year.
The board and the audience heard from Mark Tashian, the headmaster at Burton Academy, who spoke in support of the school's tuition rate, which is increasing by $500 to $17,990 from $17,490.
We are educating right now 543 students from the Taconic and Green School District. We are proud to serve this consolidated school district, and we are proud to serve roughly 750 students in total this year. Educationally, we offer 170 courses, 17 sports with 46 interscholastic athletic teams, and myriad performance opportunities. We recognize the incredible diversity of our student body and provide a diversity of offerings so that each student can find their place in this school. And I think that's a really important aspect of this school. Our doors are open to all.
There was also some sustained questioning by audience members about a proposed tax stabilization fund. In a separate article in the school district's warning, school officials are seeking to transfer an anticipated surplus of nearly $510,000 into the new fund.
Overspends what's been approved here, it could dip into that fund?
So it's not dipping into the fund. It would be used to reduce the tax rate in a budget document that you would see just at the same time that you're sitting just like here to listen to. So the only time it would get used is if the board decided in budget preparation to transfer some of that money into the general fund to reduce the tax rate, period. You're not dipping into it to spend.
So you're saying the board would propose something then to a subsequent annual meeting that the voters would approve?
The voters wouldn't approve the actual transfer. The board would decide to use it to reduce the tax rate.
We spoke afterwards with Sue Wilbourn, the Bennington-Rutland Supervisory Union's business manager, about the tax stabilization plan.
So we had a surplus over the last couple of years, and rather than just return that surplus in this year's tax rate, we're suggesting that we set it aside, rainy day fund, contingency fund, for when we might need it. Specifically next year, there's a couple things that might happen in the FY21 budget. So we know that the state has a new healthcare decision that is definitely going to cost us more money. What we don't know is how much more is it going to cost us. And we didn't throw a bunch of potential dollars into the budget. What we put in the budget is exactly what we know for sure will happen based on current elections of staff. But those elections could change, and it could cost us a lot more money if staff choose to choose higher tier plans, say go from a single to a family plan. We did not, even though that there's a higher cost for that, we didn't throw a bunch of dollars in the budget because we don't know who will make those elections. So putting aside this money into tax stabilization would allow us to draw from it if we end up in a deficit next year because people made those choices. If we have a lot of people making choices to move to a family plan and we have to spend another $300,000 on health care in FY21 that we didn't budget for, we would be able to draw from the tax stabilization to apply that to the deficit rather than having to raise that deficit in FY22. If we have to raise a deficit, that raises the tax rate, right? So it's sort of a little bit of a savings account. The other thing that there's always potential for is to have new students move in the secondary program. We saw that this year. Every year we do budget what we call ghost students. Last year we put in 15 into this year's budget, and we ended up with an additional 20 students on top of that 15. So 35 students we didn't know about ended up with us. And
School Superintendent Jacqueline Wilson got a round of applause in recognition of her service as the school superintendent and her long career in local education towards the end of the 90-minute-long
Are
meeting.
you okay still with a class size of 10 to 13 kids at the elementary level? Does that feel okay to you or not? Because if it's, there's going to be a cost associated with that. And we still have that in some of our, we have small schools, and we still have classrooms of 10 to 13 kids. And we can't change that until we do something differently. Does that mean further consolidation with our schools? Does that mean that Dorset and Manchester come together and they're a K-4 school and we're able to have some reduction in staffing? The big one is a regional middle school. You're not going to save. We're not putting any extras in the budget. Our budget is built on, we take exactly, here's our staff, here's the cost of our staff, this is what our budget is. So we're not adding anything extra to that. It's what our actual cost is, and the money is around staff. And if you're going to, we're going to have to, as a community, have some serious discussions about what do we want programming to look like and what is the cost going to be associated around that program.
Afterwards, we spoke with Randy Loeb, currently the BRSU's assistant superintendent, who will be taking over the top job on July 1st, on her takeaways from the previous night's annual meeting.
The insight, the thoughtfulness that people in the community shared. I think there were great things for me to think about as I look ahead to next year about things we could include that we didn't, a different approach to being inclusive and transparent, but also shedding light on who we are as an organization. There were excellent comments from people in the audience, and after the meeting I had an opportunity to talk to people from the community and board members that just kind of got my wheels spinning, and I'm excited about what's to come. We're at Courier next year, and we'll probably be adding a few things in based on the recommendations of what suggestions were made.
Voting will take place on the Taconic and Green budget on Tuesday, March 3rd, at the polling locations in each of the 9 towns that make up the regional district. While there, they will also be electing 6 members of the school board. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.